Hello. Today we'll take random topics from cardiovascular system in terms of the possibility in Viva. So we'll discuss the various topics of the CVS, starting with the morphological properties and electrical properties. Of course, the mechanical and biochemical properties of the cardiac muscle. Altogether, the properties of the cardiac muscle. So that can be listed out in Viva in response to the examiner's choice. So in morphological properties, we have to start with the striated muscle. Of course, this is along with the skeletal muscle, striated muscle, and cardiac muscle is involuntary. Then it has having intercalated disc as well as gap junctions in intercalated discs. So these gap junctions can communicate the electrical activity by passing directly the ions. Whereas electrical properties, we have excitability, ability to give a response in response to stimulus, and autorhythmicity, conductivity. Then in the mechanical properties, contractility, all-on-all, refractory period, staircase effect. Metabolic properties, to conclude, it is having roughly 80 ml of 100 grams of muscle per minute of the blood supply. Of course, it is variable with the exercise and other situations. And mostly it is using fats as a nutrient during aerobic conditions. Then in the take the cardiac cycle, examiner may ask to define cardiac cycle. Then you need to give the proper definition. Cardiac events that occur from the beginning of one heartbeat to the beginning of the next heartbeat are called cardiac cycle. I mean, you can define it. You need to give the duration. Duration is 0.8 seconds. That is divided into systole and diastole. Diastole is longer, systole is shorter. Systole is 0.3 seconds, whereas diastole is 0.5 seconds. Then the examiner may ask you ventricular, whereas the subphase of ventricular systole. We have three phases in the ventricular systole: isovolumetric contraction, then followed by rapid ejection and slow ejection. In the isovolumetric contraction, the ventricle is contracting as a closed cavity and it is building up the pressure inside. Pressure increases steeply so that the next stage is rapid ejection into the aorta, then followed by slow ejection. Then in the diastole, we have five phases. To start with, number one is protodiastole, is a preparatory stage for the relaxation of the cardiac muscle. Then isovolumetric relaxation, which is a key component of the diastole. In this phase, the heart or ventricular chamber is relaxing as a closed cavity, with both the sides the valves closed, so that it is relaxing and pressure falls steeply down, so that suddenly the AV valve opens. Then the third phase, first rapid filling, then followed by slow filling, which is also known as diastasis. Then the last rapid filling, which is synchronizing with the atrial event, that is atrial systole. So when you are discussing cardiac cycle, they may ask about heart sound. There are four heart sounds that can be recorded by the instrument phonocardiogram, whereas two can be heard by stethoscope. The first heart sound is due to closure of AV valves. Second heart sound is due to closure of semilunar valves. Third heart sound is due to first rapid filling. Fourth heart sound is due to second rapid filling or atrial systole. Okay. Then they may ask a related investigation, echocardiography, which is important to record the movements of the ventricular wall, septum and wall, so that we can diagnose the valvular defects. When echocardiography is combined with the Doppler techniques, we can measure the velocity of the blood flow and the volume of blood that is flowing through each wall, so that we can estimate stroke volume present in the ventricle before the diastole, just at the end of the diastole, at the end of systole also, so that we will get some definitions related to it, that is ventricular volumes. And diastolic volume, or EDV, means volume of the ventricles at the end of the filling, at the end of the diastole, that will be around 110 ml. Then end systolic volume, as the name implies, volume in the ventricles at the end of ejection, at the end of systole, that will be around 40 ml. That means the difference 70 ml is pumped out, that is stroke volume. That is the amount of blood pumped out in each beat. Okay, don't get confused with this end systolic volume. Some students in the previous batches, they are saying that the cardiac reserve is confused with the end systolic volume. They are saying that amount retained in the ventricle at the end of systole is made as cardiac reserve. No, that is not cardiac reserve. That I will discuss in the next short video. So then, when in continuation ventricular volumes, as I said, The difference between end diastolic volume and end systolic volume is 70 ml. That is the volume ejected stroke volume. Stroke volume and combined and multiplied with heart rate, that will be the cardiac output. Okay, that we will discuss in the cardiac output blood pressure. We will discuss in the next blip. So the key component to diagnose cardiac failure is ejection fraction. How much of blood that is ejected out of the accumulated blood in the ventricles. This can be defined as percentage of end diastolic volume that is ejected. That can be mathematically calculated as stroke volume divided by end diastolic volume, then total multiplied by 100. That is percentage of the volume that is having at the end of the diastole is ejected out. It will be normal 50 to 60%. If it is in the normal healthy individuals, but if it is less than 50, you can say that is cardiac failure. It is unable to pump what is required for the metabolic needs of the body. So in the next video we will continue with the other definitions. So at this point we will stop and take the next.